As you can see behind me here, the entirety of the Twin Falls High School campus is just covered in snow, but it's very evident that officials have been working hard to keep up with it, shoveling the sidewalks and plowing the roads. But as it just keeps coming down like it is right now, that's just getting harder and harder to do. I'm here at the Buell City Park, where parents are still picking up their children after all 3 Buell schools were placed on lockdown earlier today. What happened was, around noon today, a Buell High School student received a Snapchat that threatened all 3 of the Buell schools. Well, Joe, it's definitely not a very nice night out here, and sometimes the only thing that keeps me going during these terrible weather conditions is looking forward to my nice warm home to return to. But for some people in the community, they don't have one. Lights and sirens are first responders' indication that they are trying to get to an emergency as quickly as possible. And when drivers don't move to the side of the road, it has great impacts on not only their response time, but also potentially someone's life. And she hopes everybody had an enjoyable snow day. Now, there's no word yet on whether there will be school tomorrow in the Twin Falls School District. So as of right now, there is, but of course, that could always change overnight. As Eric will tell us, there's some more weather patterns coming in throughout the night. I'm here at the brand new Subaru car dealership with Christian Robinson, the general sales manager. And tell me, Christian, why did you want to get involved with the Toys for Tots donation? The Idaho Fish and Game have created a website to help residents reduce wildlife contacts. I'm standing here in front of the Twin Falls Senior Center because they'll be closed until further notice. Now, the interim director tells me that the decision was one that they didn't take lightly, but ultimately it came down to the health of not only the staff, but the congregate members as well. Well, for 50 years, Cecile Griffith has spent her time and energy helping underprivileged families in the Magic Valley with the East End providers. But now she needs the community's help. Seconds count when first responders are trying to respond to a call for help.
When we do get delayed, that potentially could snowball into, somebody being more injured or even worse.
When a first responder gets the call, a lot of things are going through their mind as they are on their way there. And the last thing they need is to have to maneuver around other vehicles on the road.
In your mind, am I going to a shooting? Am I going to an infant choking? Am I going to somebody drowning? There are so many different things that are going through your mind. Okay, am I going to need to grab a piece of equipment out of my back of my car as soon as I get there?
Now, what exactly is the law? When traveling on a 4-lane road, such as Blue Lakes Boulevard behind me here, only those traveling in the same direction as the emergency vehicle are required to pull over to the side of the road and stop. And when traveling on a 2-lane road or fewer, such as Filer Avenue behind me here, all cars are required to move over to the side of the road and stop. Now, before pulling back into traffic, it's important to look around and see if another emergency vehicle is coming.
Before you pull back out onto the road, to make sure that there's not a secondary vehicle coming behind us, because it's more dangerous for the second. So if there's 2 officers, it's more dangerous for the second officer.
So although the emergency call may not be for you or someone you know, by pulling over to the side of the road for lights and sirens, you could be helping save someone's life.
But when we're responding and then we get distracted by drivers that don't pull over, it takes our mind off of what we are trying to accomplish when we're going to the call.
There's a lot of miracles that happen. Like, I still don't know how I got up there, what exactly happened, or what saved me, or what helped me to hang on.
The story begins on May 22nd, which was just a normal day for Declo High School senior Kennedy Littledyke.
Starting off with that night, me and my friends were just at the base of the D at the mountain, and we were just watching the sunset, and I was just having a rough day, I guess. And so we went to go watch it, and then they're like, let's go make some crepes. So then we were driving back to my house to go get my friend's car to go to Walmart and get this stuff for him.
But as she was driving down her street, she ended up in a terrible car accident where her and her 2 passengers were ejected from the car and thrown into the field. Kennedy was thrown onto the power lines and hanging on by her leg.
It was just scary, and I remember starting to cry, and then I knew if I started to cry, because I don't cry, like I hate crying, and so then I knew if I started to cry, like I'd given up, and that was it for me.
She was in a medical coma for 5 days while the doctors worked to stabilize her. She spent almost a month at the University of Utah Hospital and was then transferred to Primary Children's Hospital, where she did her rehab and learned how to do everything for herself again.
Now with my prosthetic getting dressed, it's even worse because it's like dressing a doll. You have to like take off the shoes and then put your pants on, and then you have to put the shoe back on, and since your foot can't like wiggle into your shoe, it's just stiff. So you have to like pry it on, and with my one arm.
Kennedy has been home since the end of July and is attending classes in person at Declo High School. She admits it has been hard, but she has tried to focus on the bright side.
Like anything can happen, so just make the best out of it, and attitude will take you so far. I've learned that. Like, I believe that with my whole heart, is that attitude is over everything.
For Officer Samarico with the Twin Falls Police Department, he encounters a citizen who speaks a different language every single day.
All the time. Probably on a daily basis, we get some sort of call where even a traffic stop, simple as that, where we encounter somebody that doesn't even speak any English.
In a situation like that, they use the language line, or they call a different officer who speaks their language. For Officer Smarico, he came to the United States from Bosnia in the 3rd grade and understands how challenging it is to not know what an officer or first responder is saying.
When the job is done and when the call is complete, we want to make sure that they completely understand, one, their rights, and two, what we can do to help them before leaving the scene.
The College of Southern Idaho recognizes this and is offering free Spanish classes for law enforcement and first responders. They want to help give them the tools to connect with the residents.
And working with such a diverse population means that they need to have all of the skills they can possibly have to work with various members of our community, and we recognize that language is a huge part of that.
Samarico says this is a great thing for his fellow officers, but it is only the beginning.
Some of us come from third world countries where there's no law and justice, there's none of that stuff, so they see a police officer, they think, oh, I'm in trouble, or oh, I'm going to look the other way because I'm scared.
And lastly, trust.
Not just the portion where we can help, like related to law enforcement, we also want them to understand we're here for them, and if they ever need us, they can call us.
This 200,000-pound, 70-year-old locomotive is traveling from Snoqualmie, Washington to Ely, Nevada on the back of a tractor trailer. Friday morning, it made its way through Twin Falls.
Locomotive 201 was purchased for operations on the Nevada Northern Railway back in 1951. And it ran here all the way up until the railroad closed in 1983.
And now it's traveling 847 miles to its new home at the Northern Nevada Railway Museum. The truck it's traveling on has 96 wheels and is 252 feet long. Its top speed is about 35 miles per hour. It will arrive in Ely on Monday afternoon.
It has 96 wheel sets underneath it, and those wheel sets can all be steered individually, so it can go around incredibly tight corners.
People watched in awe as it got off at the Eden exit Friday morning, taking up all 5 lanes to make the turn.
It's awesome. Glad to see it headed back to home in Nevada, and seeing the locomotive in the cradle and being hauled by the trucks. Pretty awesome.
The Northern Nevada Railway Museum is a National Historic Landmark, and when Locomotive 201 gets to its new home, it too will be one. This locomotive is the only one of its kind left.
It was one of only 38 built, and all of the others have been scrapped and cut up, and they're razor blades now.
Elizabeth Hadley, KMVT News.
And I always said you got to give from your hands, your heart, or your pocket, but you got to give.
Cecile Griffith and the East End Providers have helped numerous families since being established 50 years ago. They not only give Christmas gifts, but they give clothes, blankets, food boxes, and school supplies to families in need. Last year, they helped 325 families and 667 kids from all across the Magic Valley.
This is private donation. All of it is private donation. The only thing we got for somebody else is Toys for Tots.
Griffith never wants to turn anyone away, especially donations, But lately, she hasn't had enough room in her freezers to store all of the frozen food that is donated to her.
Currently, she's just using some freezers that are donated to us, and they're kind of housed in there, and it's nowhere near being able to handle the capacity. Still had 70.
I had 100 turkeys the other day I had to chase down for freezer space.
With the growing community and many people still feeling the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, Griffith says she needs the community's help to build a 17 by 40 walk-in freezer so she never has to turn anyone away again.
Yeah, and the more food she has, the more she can give out. This building will fill and empty over a week's time. It's pretty impressive how much she does.